Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked, the series where I talk about every single book on my shelves because otherwise the anarchists will take over. Today we are talking about Marissa Meyer's Renegades series. I do own every single book in this series. Book 1 was sent to me for review from the publisher, thank you so much. Book 2 was a gift, and also Book 3. They are all different sizes, they are all different kinds of paperbacks. I know this will make people who have organised shelves a little bit cross perhaps, but this is what we're dealing with here. So I will very quickly put the covers up just so you know which books I'm talking about and you can find them on your own. The first book is Renegades, the second book is Arch Enemies, the third book is Supernova. So yes, I've done the disclaimers regardless of where books come from. Nobody's paying me to talk about books. All opinions are my own. I'm also going to keep this as spoiler free as humanly possible. I am going to be talking about all 3 books though, so if you do want to go in knowing absolutely nothing, click away now. Nothing's going to be ruined for you, but hey, I don't know what you're interested in. I'll also link the story graph below in case you want to find any content warnings. Renegades originally released in 2018, while Supernova came out in, I think, 2020? 2021? I can check. I have that power. 2019. Oh, well, there you go. It is a YA sci-fi. Do we count superheroes as sci-fi? Is superhero its own genre? How are we wording that? Somebody let me know. But it is a YA superhero trilogy. I talked a little bit about Marissa Meyer last week, so if you want to find out more about her and her other series, check out that video if you're interested, if I remember to link it there. It's always a 50-50 chance I will remember. I'll be ready for the plot. The Renegades are a syndicate of prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities who emerged from the ruins of a crumbled society and established peace and order where chaos reigned. As champions of justice, they remain a symbol of hope and courage to everyone except the villains they once overthrew. Nova has a reason to hate the Renegades, and she is on a mission for vengeance. As she gets closer to her target, she meets Adrian, a renegade boy who believes in justice, and in Nova, but Nova's allegiance is to a villain who has the power to end them both. Yes, we do indeed have a I am with the enemies, and yet I must join the good guys in order to overthrow them story. Yet again, I feel like I've read 2 or 3 YA books recently where that has been the plot. For most part, that has been I must kill the prince rather than I must join these superheroes, but it is definitely a standard YA plot for sure. My biggest pro for this series, my biggest reason I think it is worth reading, is that it is a really cool set of superheroes. Marissa Meyer really went ham on the various different superpowers. It's not just your standard flight, invisibility, a third thing. They are fantastically intricate, wacky, you wouldn't expect it superpowers. Kind of random as well, which I enjoy. And there's this idea of some of the superpowers are really combat useful, some of them are more useful for admin. We love it. We love to see it. And I found that I actually enjoyed that more, especially because I feel like perhaps in this world where we are somewhat oversaturated with superhero content, I'm just saying that any time a superhero could do something other than punch really hard and do that thing where they land in the snazzy pose, I'm interested. I'd like to see it. And there's a lot of different superpowers in this that are used in very interesting ways. For example, Nova's superpower is both that she never has to sleep and that she can put people to sleep. And she has all sorts of other interesting abilities and quirks about her character as well, but I like the idea of more of a stealth-based character, a more quiet character. It's interesting to look at rather than just punchy McPunchy. If you are interested in reading a book series that has some interesting superpowers in it, I think this would be a fun one. And some super villain powers as well. The villains are equally interesting. And very rarely do we find that the villains are as interesting as the actual heroes. Very rarely do those things work out. Normally, we are much more in the camp of the villains. Are we not? Overall, I think that the plot arc really works in the story. I think we'll come on to reasons I think it maybe should have been condensed somewhat, but this idea of the first book being the kind of training montage sort of affair, we must learn to be a superhero, here are the auditions to become a superhero, that kind of thing, and then the later books being let's deal with what's going on in the world now. I don't think reading the start of book 1 you'd necessarily anticipate all the places that Supernova goes, but I think you'd get the gist of it. This isn't a series that's going to totally surprise you in every single way, but it is an enjoyable reading experience from start to finish. I think that the character journey that Nova goes on makes sense. It isn't just a basic I've had a change of heart or I have not had a change of heart kind of story. There's more complexity to it than that. And there's lots of fun superhero battles and such, which is really, again, my main selling point is there's some fun aspects to this. Also, having very recently talked about how in the Lunar Chronicles, it's all very, very hetero, nobody's really doing anything outside of the box in that book. We do have some queer characters in this. None of them are the main characters of this story. But Adrian, our renegade character, has two dads. And I actually found that quite enjoyable, that it was just sort of thrown in as a thing. But it's not a blanket, this is absolutely fine in the world. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the way it's explained in Renegades is, at that point in time, life was so chaotic that nobody could really comment on the fact that these two superheroes were dating. And it was just like, fine. The world was just ending, like, we'll deal with this, and that spoke to me. Like, that is the only point where people would stop caring, right? So yeah, it's still not, a bustling queer narrative, but hey, people exist, and I will take that. One of my two big criticisms of this series as a whole is one that I know other people have had, which is that there's a lot of stuff that's really stretched out between books 2 and 3, and I think possibly in another life, in another alternate universe, this is a duology, and I think it would work much better. And maybe we would have the YA duology problem of things in book 2 feeling very distant from things in book 1, but I do feel like a lot of the second book could just be nixed. We could deal with that in another way, we could throw it in as a flashback, it would be fine. There's some stuff that happens and gets revealed that I won't talk about because it is a spoiler, and then just sort of gets retconned immediately, and you're there like, well, that was meant to be this big moment in the story, and now it is gone again just for the sake of another 100 pages or so. I don't think we needed that, and I think that some condensing and some editing, had this been a duology, might have made this a lot stronger. My other big criticism with this book is I think it is very on the nose. I think it is so unsubtle about what it's trying to talk about. This idea of the pros and cons of anarchy versus control. Like, the main villain from this passage was called Ace Anarchy, and it's just some things the characters say, either to themselves or out loud, feel like something that has been written for a school debate project, right? And maybe I'm being uncharitable, and me as a teenager would have been like, wow, I've never thought of that before. I've never thought to criticise the law enforcement in my country. Wow, amazing. So maybe that would have been the case when I was a teenager, but as an adult I read it and I'm like, I know, you don't need to tell me this, you can just show me this, I get this from the character dynamic here. I know what's going on, and it felt a little bit ham-fisted, perhaps. And I think that flows through the book somewhat. Some of the character choices and some of the conversations and the big epic speech moments just feel a little bit. The only way I can think of it is on the nose. That's the only phrase I have for you. But yeah, so if you want a subtle look at those things, this is not that book. But again, superheroes aren't really subtle plot devices, are they? They are inherently unsubtle, so maybe I'm being unfair. Much like with the Lunar Chronicles, I think if you don't get round to reading these, you're not going to ruin your life, you're not missing out on the best superhero series that has ever existed. But if you do want a fun superhero series that's going to be nice and quick to go through, these are really readable, similar to Lunar Chronicles. There's a nice dynamic between the two characters who are paired up, shall we say, Nova and Adrian, and I liked a lot of elements of it. It really pulls you through to the reveals towards the end of the third book. I had a good time. Would I say that it's a must-read and, is throwing all other superhero books into the garbage? No, I would not. But I had a good time, and I would recommend it if Marissa Meyer's writing is something you enjoy, and if this kind of dynamic is something you would like, I would say go for it. The other superhero books I've read, YA superhero books, there was the DC series from a while ago. I liked the Wonder Woman book, but I didn't like it on a reread. I heard very bad things about the Catwoman book, and I hadn't really heard much else about that series from then on, so I wouldn't maybe recommend reading those, but I liked the Wonder Woman one the first time I read it. So there you go. The series I often compare to this is the Brandon Sanderson, I think they are YA superhero books, Steelheart? Something like that. It's a very Brandon Sanderson title. I used to own them. I unhauled them because I found the main character so annoying. Such a teenage boy. I disliked him intensely. He may have been an adult, but he felt very teenage boy to me. So yeah, I don't actually recommend those, but if you didn't like those, this kind of gave me what I wanted from that series. So that might be a converse recommendation for you. I haven't read this yet, but it is on my TBR. This is a queer superhero book, and I'm excited to read it. I can't remember when I'm picking it up. It might be in September. So when I've read this, I will report back and let you know if it was any good. Have you read these books? Do you have any plans to? Have you read any of Marissa Meyer's other stuff? These are the only series of hers that I own. I'd be very interested to know what people have thought about her latest books. Are they worth reading? Plonk all that down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. Nothing makes me feel more loved and appreciated, though, than my patrons over on Patreon, who support the channel and get early access to videos and exclusive content if you would like to join their number. That's linked below, as is my Discord and my Twitter if you'd like to come have chill chats about books. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. It's gonna be some bloopers now. Bam. I don't know why I keep reading these. I've got my notes for a different video up just so I can get the structure right, and I keep reading it being like, that's not what this book is. It's because this is the Song of Achilles.